You wrote a few months ago in the Wall Street Journal on this so-called protest with the football players taking the knee during the national anthem. Mm-hmm. Among other things, you said, it's not surprising then that these black football players would don the mantle of protest, because you say protest is something that black Americans have had to do for civil rights. You look at Martin Luther King, you look at Jackie Robinson in sports and so forth and so on. And you say the surprise was that it didn't work this time. Yeah. They had misread the historic moment. They were not speaking truth to power. Rather, they were figures of pathos, mindlessly loyal to a black identity that had run its course. So you say in the article, look, protest is a good thing. Protest sometimes is necessary, right? To get the vote, to get equal rights, to draw the attention of society and so forth. But this one fell on deaf ears. Yeah. Explain.
Well, protest is central to the evolution of black American culture. It was protest that really finally won our freedom for us. Beyond that, it's always interesting to note that it expanded the idea of democracy. Democracy had all of the theory, all of the thinking, all of it before had never dealt with the clash between race and racism and democracy. Well, it was the civil rights movement. It was Martin Luther King who said, you have to go beyond race even, that democracy is universal. So that's a big part of the black American identity, and it's sort of seen as the test of your authenticity as a black. And yet this protest in the NFL made the point that this was kind of fruitless at this point. And I think the central issue behind what you're talking about is the fact that the oppression of black Americans is over with.
It's over with.
It's over with. I grew up, I mean, it was, we never thought there'd be an end to oppression. I remember being a teenager, I never thought that I'd live in a society that wasn't segregated. It happened. Now, are there exceptions? Yes, there are a few here and there. Will racism ever completely go away? No, it's a part of as I say in that article, it's endemic to the human condition, just as stupidity is endemic to the human condition. And so we'll always have to be on guard about it. But we're at a point where the old-fashioned method of protest is obsolete. We need a lot of things, but we don't need that anymore. We're at a point now where we are a free people and can pursue our lives as we would like to. Well, when you think about it, black American culture evolved over 3.5 centuries, every minute of which they lived under oppression. And they adapted to dealing with the fact that their freedoms were going to be cut off. And they had to somehow make a life within all of those restrictions, and they did. And one of the, I think, black American culture is nothing less than heroic. I mean, they evolved, look at the contribution like music and so forth, that achieved great things. The one thing we never had to do was to deal with freedom. That was precisely the thing that we would deny. So that's not in our culture in a vivid, clear sense, as it would be if we had been free, truly free. Well, we now are free, and freedom is, as the existentialists I think rightly say, a burden. It's a difficulty. It puts the individual in the position of being much more responsible for themselves, their own development as individuals. And that's new for us. That's the idea is still that black unity, we just can be unified. That's the way ahead. unity was everything. And if you are authentically black, you're going to do what blacks have always done to one degree or another. You're going to protest. Well, the irony is that you're making $15 million a year. If you're making vast amounts of money, doing successful in every way, you're free. There's nothing for you to protest. Nothing.
How about social justice and equality and phrases like that? I hear that's what people say they're protesting.
You got all the social justice you need. Again, I lived through segregation. The freedom we have today is absolutely remarkable, and we as a people have not yet absorbed that. We've not absorbed the fact that our problem is no longer racism. Our problem is freedom. We have to learn to deal with freedom. And the only way to do that is that it's going to have to be grounded in individual responsibility. That's the only chance you have with freedom, is to take charge of your life and make a life for yourself. Ralph Ellison, one of my all-time favorite writers, talks about this, that the group is the gift of its individuals. The goal is not to create the uncreated conscience of your race, but to create the uncreated conscience of your face. And that's 50, 60
profound.
years ago. That's on the money. That's in his great book, Invisible Man.